Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the third and final talk for this afternoon on the different courses, or some of the different courses that are available at the University of Wolverhampton. My name is Dr. Ali Forbes, and I am the course leader for the Sport Business Management degree at the university. And I'm aware that colleagues that have already spoken to you today have kind of given you a bit of an intro, an overview of why it's a good time to be looking at sport courses. And I think I've got a few points that perhaps complement what other people have already said. Might as well talk about it because we can't get away from it. But current circumstances that we find ourselves in with coronavirus, I think one of the things that's really highlighted in the sport industry is the importance of sport and physical activity. So think back to March when we were put in a lockdown. We literally were allowed to do nothing. We were allowed to leave our house for very, very few reasons. But one of the reasons we were allowed to leave was for sport and physical activity, to do exercise. So there's definitely a recognition from the government that sport and physical activity is a really, really important part of lots of people's lives. And based on that, there's been over the last, over a number of years now, really, a real growing investment in sport. In terms of a recognition that sport is good for us physically. People that are engaged in sport can improve their physical health, but sport can actually do a lot of other things as well. And there's a real recognition now that sport and sport interventions form important parts of all sorts of different policies. And there's a recognition that sport can tackle a number of different social issues. So there's an investment in sport, not necessarily in just getting people active because of the obvious health benefits of physical activity, but there's also a growing investment in sport with the fact that sport can help tackle different social issues such as crime, antisocial behaviour. Engagement in sport is proven to improve educational attainment. Through sport, people can develop key employability skills, so sport's been used within interventions to get people back into employment. So all of these things that cost the government money, lots of these social issues, there's a recognition now that sport can be used quite strategically to tackle some of these things. So there's a real investment in sport at the moment, and I think that's really highlighted by the fact that Birmingham will be hosting the Commonwealth Games in 2022. So a really, really exciting time as well for our region at the moment, and we're starting to see the benefits of that, the different venues starting to be built. We're starting to see lots of information now coming out about Birmingham 22, and there'll be lots and lots of opportunities within our local area to get involved in the organisation and delivery of sport in the build up to the games, but also importantly for when a country and an area hosts a mega event, the legacy of that games. So the athletes come and put on a great show for a couple of weeks, but actually the most important part of a mega event is the legacy that leaves behind afterwards for the people in those areas. And so there's going to be a real push in Birmingham and in the Black Country in terms of ensuring that there's a real legacy from the Commonwealth Games, and that's going to bring about all sorts of different employment opportunities as well. So I think the key message from me really today is, well, to tell you a little bit about the Sport Business Management course, but also how that links to future employment. And sport business management principles, as I'm going to talk through in a minute, actually underpin all or nearly every sports organisation. So there's aspects of sport business management. If you think of any sports organisation, there's aspects of sport business management within those organisations. So you might think, what is sport business management? Because we're aware that in sixth form or in your GCSEs, or if you're doing BTECs, sport business management might form a small part of that, but a lot of the stuff that you look at GCSE level, at A level, within your BTEC is very much focused on the science of sport. You might do some of your sport development and some sport coaching stuff, but you might not be as familiar with some of the different aspects of sport business management. So the sport business management degree is about learning about key business and management principles Now, I'm going to give you a list of principles here. You could take these principles, and if we weren't delivering them in the context of sport, this could be key features of a business and management degree. But the key difference with sport business management is you learn about these things and explore these different things within the context of sport. So some of the key principles of business and management are media and marketing, event management, your operational management, those sorts of aspects. So making sure the smooth running of your operation or your business. Research and insight. We've got HR management, human resource management, so managing people and that aspect. Customer service, which is a really important part of business and management. Consultancy, and your more strategic type management. Now, all of these principles underpin business management. And as I've just said, you could take these out of the context of sport and create a degree, a business management degree with those aspects. Sport business management is about learning about the key business and management principles, but through the context of sport. So we learn about media and marketing and event management and operations and research and customer service and consultancy through the context of the sport industry landscape. And within that industry landscape, we explore different sectors of sport. So we've got our public sector sport, kind of government-led, local authority-led, your community level type sport, and you've got your commercial sectors. So your sectors in sport that are perhaps more profit-driven and profit-orientated, who have perhaps got different motives for getting people involved within their services. Both the public and commercial sectors, whilst they have different values, are still underpinned by these key business and management principles. They still need to be strategic in terms of reaching their target market. They still need to understand their audience and market the services that they offer appropriately to their audience. To understand your audience, you need to be able to engage with research and insight and market research and consult the people that you want to reach. So you can start to see how these things can be delivered through the context of sport and where they link and why they're important. We look on the programme at community sport right the way through to elite level sport. So the management of local, public sector, community sport, right up to the business of professional sport and how they differ. We think learning through the context of sport will focus on local perspectives, what happens in the Black Country, what happens in Birmingham, what happens in the West Midlands, but we'll also look at your national perspectives, so national sports strategy and how that helps us shape what goes on at that local level, how sport is funded and how that filters down to local levels. And then our international perspectives as well, particularly with elite sport and this idea that sport is becoming globalised. Again, that's all about strategic business management. Think about something like the Premier League. The Premier League is successful because it's marketed to a global audience. That hasn't happened by accident. That's been a very strategic repositioning of the top league in football 25 or so years ago, and now they're really seeing the benefits of that. Okay, you'll learn about sports strategy, barriers to sport and physical activity. So understanding the people that you're likely to work with within your local areas, the barriers that they face to activity, how you can put on sports initiatives and interventions to help people get involved and become active or stay active. So there's a whole range of different things that sport business management covers. Fundamentally, it's key business and management principles delivered through the context of sport at both local, national and international level, thinking about both the public and the commercial sectors. Okay, well, what makes the sport business management course at the University of Wolverhampton different? I've put together some of the key features that we think makes our course stand out. And all of this imagery here that we've captured is our own students kind of working together within practical activities. There's some images here of students out in industry, delivering projects with different people. So the key point here is that the key features of the course is that you study within the live operations of the sport industry. So we don't just learn about sport business management by sitting in a classroom and being talked at in a lecture. Yes, there is some classroom-based activity, like there is in all courses, but also you'll get a chance to study within the live operations of the industry. So it's very applied. You would learn aspects of sport business management and gain the knowledge, but then we challenge you to go out into the industry and really put that into practice. So you're studying within the live operations of the industry, and we work with our official partners to give students opportunities to contribute to real world industry projects. So that's another key feature of the degree programme, is that you're working in the live operations on real world projects. So it's not just hypothetical things that we're actually challenging you to do. One of these pictures here, the picture in the centre that you can see of the mugger, the multi-use area here on the concrete in the middle of the screen. That's a picture of our students working in Heathtown in Wolverhampton with some of the young people in that area. And they actually had a pot of money. They bid for a pot of money. They had £5,000 to put together an initiative and plan and organise that initiative and then help within the delivery of it. So the real world industry projects are really important because they allow students to develop skills and competencies that you wouldn't necessarily be able to develop if you were just sat learning about these things in the classroom. Okay, the key thing for employers when you're moving on to employment and thinking about that aspect is that you can demonstrate that you've got knowledge and understanding, but also that you can demonstrate that you've got the skills and competencies and you can put that knowledge and understanding into practice. And that's really what people want you to be able to demonstrate. So one of the key features of the course is that you actually do that throughout the 3 years, working in the live operations of the industry, contributing to these real world industry projects. So when you come out of the other side of the degree and you become graduates, and you've got lots of really good experiences that you can talk about to employers where you've actually delivered a sport event, helped to manage a sport event, worked as a consultant, helped someone improve their business. Okay, so it's not just a theoretical understanding of how to do some of these things, but also the practical application that you will have developed experience of on the course. So those employability skills and industry experience that's really, really valued by our employers, by our local employers. Although not an inherently practical course in the same way that perhaps sport coaching or PE is, there are still practical elements to the course because as someone who was working in business and management, you would need key skills and to be able to demonstrate that you've got those key skills. Okay, you need to be able to demonstrate leadership and develop teamwork. You need to be a good communicator. You need to be able to organise yourself and others. If you're working within business management, you would be responsible for yourself, but you'd also be responsible for a team of other people. So these skills are really, really important. So we do lots of practical activities to get you to develop those skills, working with each other, working with your fellow students, and as well as the other industry aspects where you're out working in the industry, contributing to those real world projects. And put all of that together, and what we're aiming to do is create graduates who are strategic, innovative and enterprising. You know, 3 key aspects for people wanting to go and work within the sport business management setting, regardless of organisation. Really key skills that you would need. Okay, the course is very employability driven. All of the courses at University of Wolverhampton are employability driven, and we've got employability strands embedded right through all of the courses, and the sport business management course is no exception to that. So we're endorsed by CIMSPA, who are the Chartered Institute for the Management of Sport and Physical Activity. So CIMSPA are the professional development body for the UK sport and physical activity sector. And as a higher education partner with a sport business management degree that's been endorsed by CIMSPA, what that means is that we're certified as meeting employer set professional standards. So that means that our course has been verified by CIMSPA and that our graduates will graduate from the programme and be equipped with the competencies and skills that are needed to meet those requirements of potential employers. As students who would be studying on a CIMSPA endorsed course, if you decided to join the University of Wolverhampton, you can apply for a membership with CIMSPA, so a student membership with CIMSPA, with the professional body, and you get a whole host of other benefits from being a CIMSPA member as well. So you can build a professional network, there's lots of additional CPD opportunities that you can engage with, there's real links with employers, you get access to a digital newsletter and magazine sent out by CIMSPA with all kind of interesting CPD, but also employer opportunities, internships, those sorts of things. So student membership, something that you would have access to on the course as a course that's been endorsed by CIMSPA. Okay, so just to give a bit of an overview of the delivery pattern and the sorts of things that you would study on the Sport Business Management degree. So we deliver in a block delivery pattern, which looks a little bit like what I've got on the screen. So there's 4 blocks across an academic year, and an academic year runs from September through until May, June. And as you can see here, we've got kind of short blocks and then slightly longer blocks. So in the short blocks, you focus on just one module, and then in the slightly longer blocks, you would focus on 2 modules simultaneously. So this is a brand new delivery pattern that we've put together, helping to support students with that transition into higher education. And you can see here on the screen that block 1 at level 4, which is the first year at university, for the first 4 weeks, you would be studying a transitions module, which is all about introducing you to sport in HE and learning and developing some of those key skills that you would need to be successful. We've got in block 3, preparing to work in the sport industry. So as you'll see through all of the levels, employability is really embedded within the degree, not only within the modules where you would go and work with industry partners on real world projects, but also within employability modules where we work with our students to help them explore and understand the job roles they are interested in, job roles that they might want to go into, the skill set that they have when they enter the programme, and the skills and attributes that they need to develop alongside the programme so that they meet the requirements and employer needs when they graduate. Other bits you'd study at level 4, so an introduction to the sport industry landscape. So we put that nice and early so you get a real grasp of what the sport industry looks like, what it's made up of, the different sectors of sport, how it's organised and how it's funded, and sport media and marketing, so learning about different audiences and how you would market your organisation or different products to different groups of people. And then at level 4, in the later blocks, we've got our research and insight modules, again very hands-on, very practical, so it's not just learning about research in a classroom, it's getting out there, learning those research and insight skills within live settings. Okay, level 5 still follows the same block delivery pattern. The block delivery pattern runs all the way through the 3 levels. You can see here that there's a year-long placement. So this is a module that all students study regardless of degree programme. So all of our students will study a year-long placement module, an opportunity at level 5 for you to go and get a year's worth of hands-on experience within an organisation and a setting that you've identified that you might want to go and work in, a setting that you've identified that you want to explore a little bit further. There's also the option of doing the sandwich year. So students can do a sandwich year placement after level 5, before level 6, where you wouldn't do any modules, you would just go and work in the industry for a year and then, excuse me, come back into your degree at level 6. You can see here some of the different key aspects of business and management within the context of the sport industry that I was talking about earlier on in the presentation. So modules like sport event management, again, very hands-on. It's not just learning how to manage a sport event sat in a classroom, it's learning how to manage a sport event developing your own sport event and then going and delivering it and managing it. Okay, so it's it's real world, it's learning within these live operations of the sport industry. And then at level 6, your year-long module, so your professional project module. Now that differs. You could do something like a traditional dissertation, a piece of research. For sport business management students, you could put together a business plan. You could put together a marketing plan or a programme of activity. The professional project allows you to do an in-depth independent project, and you decide how you want to deliver that and what you want the focus to be on. We've got sport consultancy, so again another real world industry module where you get to work with an external sports organisation, and you help to explore initiatives that they've done or the business that they're in, and work as consultants. So they'll give you an issue to look at, something that they want you within their business to evaluate. You would develop the evaluation skills within the module, and then you would do a real world piece of evaluation and consultancy and feed that back to the organisation that you're working with. So it's getting those really important skills and attributes ready for employment, but doing that in the live setting. So it's not just about being sat in a classroom and learning about these principles, but it's about learning about these principles and then going out into the industry and getting a chance to apply these principles. And that runs right throughout the degree. That's a really important part of the degree programme for us. And with the employability being embedded within all levels of study, even at level 6, you'll be doing employability modules. The last but one module you study in your degree is a transitions module. So you study a transitions module when you come into the degree, which is all about becoming a university student. And then you do a personal and professional transitions module at the end of your degree, which is all about becoming a graduate and an employee. Because we recognise that we give all these opportunities to gain these skills, these real world opportunities and skills that are really important. But what we also need to do is support students to reflect on the skills that they've gained, and most importantly, learn how to articulate those skills to future employers. So there's no point in us giving you all of these experiences, but then not supporting you to learn how to articulate these in application forms and in interviews. Ultimately, to get a job in the sport industry, you need to be able to articulate what you've done in a written format and in a verbal format within an application for a job and then within an interview for a job. So the transitions module at level 6 is about really supporting you to learn how to think of all the skills and attributes that you've developed, all the experiences that you've gained, all the knowledge that you've got, and then how to articulate that to your future employers so that they understand what as an individual you could give to their organisation. Okay, and then the last thing to talk about really is, well, if I study sport business management, what can I become? What can I go and do? And I think sometimes this is quite hard to articulate, because if you do a degree in sport business management, there are actually loads and loads of different roles that you could go into. I always point students and prospective students in the direction of the UK Sport Gov jobs website. It's a really good place to look to explore the different types of roles that are available in the industry. So start to familiarise yourself with the types of jobs that are available in the sport industry, because that will give you an awareness of the types of things that you could go on and do. But there are a wide range of roles that sport business management graduates would be prepared for. We've obviously got the community sector, the public sector, so roles within councils, local county sport partnerships, those sorts of more community-based, local level roles, right the way through to kind of your elite sport. We've got national governing bodies, and within all of these organisations, there are people and job roles where people need to demonstrate business and management and key principles of business and management. So nearly all of these organisations need a media and marketing officer, or they need someone to do the research and insight and evaluation. We've got, it might be the facility management that you're interested in, it might be operational management that you're interested in, or project and event management. It might be coordinating sport and the community and activator roles that you might be interested in. You'd have the skills to develop your own business. You could go into, if you wanted to stay in education, you could go into teaching. If you wanted to be a primary, secondary or post-compulsory education teacher, then the sport business management course would enable you to step onto that next postgraduate level. So there's all sorts of different career paths you could follow if you had done a sport business management degree, and you'd have a really varied skill set, and you would have a good understanding of the fundamental principles that underpin business and management. And those principles go into nearly every, if not every, sports organisation, whether that be at community level trying to get people active, or whether that be a more commercial sport organisation that was selling a product to people. You would still need to understand your audience, you would still need to understand how to market your product to that particular audience, you would still need someone to deliver on the operational business management aspects. So there are a whole host of different careers that you could go into off the back of a sport business management degree. And have a look at the UK Sport Jobs website. That's always a really, really good place to start, I think, in terms of exploring some of these different roles. Okay, that's all from me today. Hopefully giving you a bit of a flavour of sport business management and the types of things that you would study on the course. If you've got any questions, we've obviously got the Q&A chat that you can use now. But if you would like a follow-up discussion or to learn about some of this in a bit more detail, then I've also put my contact details on the slide. Just drop me an email, a.forbes@wolv.ac.uk, and I'd be more than happy to have further conversations with anyone that's interested about sport business management and studying at the University of Wolverhampton.